The lights on the bridge of the USS Intrepid blinked softly in the darkness of space. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship had been exploring the outer edge of the galaxy for 3 months now. They had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her station, checking the communication systems for the 100th time that day. She wore headphones and listened to the static from deep space. Most days, she heard nothing but the background noise of the universe. Today felt different. "Captain," Amy said, pulling off her headphones. "I'm getting something strange." Jake turned his chair toward her. "What kind of strange?" "It's not coming from any human ship or station. The signal is very weak, but it's there." Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It's coming from somewhere far beyond our current position. Put it on the main speakers," Jake ordered. The bridge filled with a low humming sound mixed with what seemed like mathematical patterns. The crew listened carefully. None of them had heard anything like it before. "How far away is the source?" Jake asked. Amy checked her instruments. "At least 50 light years from here, maybe more. The signal is very old by the time it reaches us." Commander Ryan Davis, the ship's military advisor, walked over to Amy's station. "Can you clean it up? Make it clearer?" "I can try." Amy worked with the controls for several minutes. Slowly, the static began to fade. The mathematical patterns became clearer. That's the best I can do." Jake stood up and walked closer to the speakers. The patterns seemed to repeat every few minutes. "This isn't random noise. Someone is trying to communicate. But who?" Ryan asked. "We're the only human ships in this area. The nearest alien civilization we know about is hundreds of light years away." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's science officer, joined them. "May I hear this signal again?" Amy played it back. Elena listened, with her eyes closed, focusing on every sound. "These are mathematical equations, prime numbers, basic geometry, things that any intelligent species would understand." "You think it's a message?" Jake asked. "More than that," Elena said. "I think it's a distress call." The bridge became quiet, except for the alien signal continuing to play. Everyone understood what this meant. If Elena was right, they had just discovered a new alien species, and that species was in trouble. "Amy, how long has this signal been broadcasting?" Jake asked. "Based on the signal strength and distance, I would guess at least 3 years, maybe longer." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Someone had been calling for help for 3 years, and no one had answered. "Can you determine the exact location where the signal is coming from?" he asked. Amy nodded. "Give me a few hours to run the calculations. The signal is bouncing off several star systems, but I can trace it back to its source." "Do it," Jake ordered. "Ryan, contact Earth Command. Tell them what we've found." Ryan went to his station and began preparing the message. It would take weeks for the communication to reach Earth, and weeks more for a response to come back. "Captain," Elena said, "if this really is a distress signal, shouldn't we investigate? We could reach the source in a few days with our faster-than-light drive." Jake considered this carefully. His mission was to explore and gather information, not to make first contact with alien species. That was supposed to be handled by specialized diplomatic teams. "Let's wait for Amy to pinpoint the location first," he decided. "Then we'll make our choice." The next few hours passed slowly. Amy worked with her computers, tracking the signal through space. The rest of the crew went about their normal duties. But everyone was thinking about the mysterious message. Finally, Amy called out, "I've got it, Captain. The signal is coming from a star system about 47 light-years from here. There are 6 planets in that system, and the signal is definitely coming from the 3rd planet." Jake studied the star charts that appeared on the main screen. The system was far from any known shipping routes or human colonies. If there was intelligent life there, they were completely alone. Any other signals from that area? He asked. None that I can detect. Just this one repeating message. Alina had been studying the mathematical patterns in the signal. Captain, I've been working on translating this. I think I understand part of it. What does it say? The basic message seems to be coordinates, population numbers, and what I believe are casualty reports. There are also references to another species. From what I can tell, someone is under attack. Jake made his decision. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're investigating a possible first contact situation. Include all the data we've gathered. Yes, sir. Ryan, prepare the ship for a jump to that star system. We're going to find out who's sending this signal. Are you sure about this, Captain? Ryan asked. We don't know what we're walking into. Jake looked at the stars on the main screen. Somewhere out there, someone had been calling for help for 3 years. Every day they waited, more might die. We're explorers, he said. This is exactly what we came out here to do. Besides, if someone needs help, we can't just ignore them. The crew began preparing for the jump to faster than light speed. The ship's engines hummed louder as they charged up. In a few minutes, they would be traveling toward an unknown star system to meet an unknown species. As the ship prepared to jump, the alien signal continued to play on the bridge speakers. The mathematical patterns seemed almost desperate now that they knew what they might mean. Someone was out there, fighting for their lives, hoping that anyone in the galaxy would hear their call and come to help. Jake sat back in his command chair and watched the stars. Soon, those stars would be different stars, and they would be closer to answers. He only hoped they wouldn't be too late to help whoever was sending the signal. The USS Intrepid jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the safety of known space behind. They were heading into the unknown, following a cry for help that had been echoing through the galaxy for years. None of them knew that this single decision would change the course of galactic history forever. The USS Intrepid dropped out of faster than light speed at the edge of the alien star system. Captain Jake Morrison immediately ordered all sensors to begin scanning the area. What they found made everyone on the bridge stop and stare. My God, whispered Dr. Elena Rodriguez. Look at all that debris. The main screen showed hundreds of pieces of metal floating in space. They were clearly the remains of spacecraft, but unlike anything humans had ever seen. The ships had been beautiful once, with smooth curves and flowing lines that looked almost like art. Now they were broken and scattered across the darkness. Amy, are you still picking up that distress signal? Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter checked her instruments. Yes, sir. It's much stronger now. The source is definitely the third planet in this system. Any signs of life in all that wreckage? Scanning now, Elena said, working at her science station. I'm detecting some weak life support signals from a few of the larger pieces. There might be survivors. Commander Ryan Davis studied the tactical display. Captain, I'm seeing movement near the fourth planet. Several large objects are heading this way. The main screen switched to show 3 massive ships approaching their position. These vessels looked very different from the destroyed ones. They were dark, angular, and covered with weapons. They moved through space like predators hunting for prey. Those must be the attackers, Ryan said. Should we raise shields? Before Jake could answer, Amy's communication station came alive with noise. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from one of the damaged ships. Put it through. The speakers filled with a voice unlike anything they had ever heard. It was soft and musical, but also desperate and afraid. The alien words meant nothing to them, but the emotion was clear. Elena, can you make sense of this? Jake asked. I need more time to work on the language, but I think I can establish basic communication. The mathematical patterns and the distress signals should help. While Elena worked on translation, the 3 dark ships came closer. Ryan watched them carefully on his sensors. They're scanning us, he reported. I think they're trying to figure out what we are. Any hostile actions? Not yet, but they're definitely armed. Those ships have enough firepower to destroy us several times over. Alina looked up from her station. Captain, I think I have basic communication established. The aliens calling for help call themselves Zephyrians. They're trying to warn us about the other ships. What kind of warning? Alina listened to more of the transmission, working to understand the alien language. They're saying the dark ships belong to something called the Vex Collective. The Zephyrians say, the Vex destroy everything they find. Jake made a quick decision. Amy, open a channel to the dark ships. Let's see if they want to talk. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Intrepid. Please identify yourselves. The response came immediately. The voice was harsh and mechanical, completely different from the musical Zephyrian speech. Unknown vessel. You will surrender or be destroyed. There is no other choice. That's not very friendly, Ryan muttered. Jake tried again. We are explorers from Earth. We received a distress signal and came to investigate. We mean no harm to anyone. You are not Zephyrian. You are new. You will be studied, then destroyed, like all the others. The communication cut off. On the tactical display, the 3 Vex ships began moving faster toward the USS Intrepid. They're charging weapons, Ryan reported. I recommend we leave, Captain. Those ships are much larger than us. Jake looked at the pieces of destroyed Zephyrian ships floating around them. Somewhere in that wreckage were survivors who had been fighting alone for years. The thought of leaving them to die didn't sit well with him. Amy, contact the Zephyrian survivors. Tell them we're here to help. While Amy worked on the communication, Alina continued studying the alien languages and technology. Captain, I'm learning more about this conflict. The Zephyrians have been fighting the Vex Collective for 3 years. They've lost most of their fleet and many of their worlds. Why is no one else helping them? From what I can understand, the other alien civilizations in this region consider the fight hopeless. The Vex are too strong, and the Zephyrians are too peaceful to fight back effectively. The Vex ships were getting closer. Jake had to make a choice soon. He could order a retreat and report back to Earth, or he could stay and help the survivors. Either choice would have consequences. Captain, Amy said, I'm getting a clearer signal from the Zephyrian survivors. They're asking who we are and where we came from. I think they're surprised that someone finally responded to their distress call. Tell them we're from a planet called Earth, and we came because we heard their call for help. Amy relayed the message. The response came back quickly, and Alina translated. They're saying that no one has answered their calls before. They thought they were going to die alone. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. These peaceful aliens had been fighting for their lives for 3 years, calling for help, and no one had come. Now he understood why humans were different from the other species in the galaxy. Ryan, what are our tactical options? Ryan studied his displays. The Vex ships are bigger and have more weapons, but they're also slower. Our ship is more maneuverable. If we had to fight, we could probably hold our own for a while. What about helping the survivors? Some of the Zephyrian ships still have life support. We could evacuate the survivors to our ship, but it would take time. The Vex ships would reach us before we finished. Jake made his decision. Amy, contact Earth Command immediately. Send them everything we've learned about the Zephyrians and the Vex. Tell them we need military support here as soon as possible. Yes, sir. Ryan, prepare for combat. We're not leaving those survivors. Captain, are you sure? We're 1 ship against 3. Jake looked at the broken Zephyrian vessels on the screen. Someone has to make a stand. These Zephyrians have been fighting alone for 3 years. The least we can do is stay with them now. Alina finished analyzing more of the Zephyrian transmissions. Captain, I'm getting information about Zephyrian technology. Their ships are designed for defense, not attack. They have excellent shields and sensors, but their weapons are weak. That's why they're losing this war. What about the Vex? The Vex ships are the opposite. Lots of weapons, but basic technology. They win through brute force and numbers. The Vex ships were now close enough for detailed scans. Ryan studied them carefully. Captain, I think I see a weakness. The Vex ships have powerful forward weapons, but they're not well protected from the sides. If we could get behind them, do it. Amy, tell the Zephyrian survivors to hold on. We're going to buy them some time. The USS Intrepid began moving toward the approaching Vex ships. It was a human vessel, crewed by humans, carrying human ideas about right and wrong. The Zephyrians had called for help, and finally, someone had answered. Jake sat in his command chair and watched the enemy ships grow larger on the screen. He didn't know if they would survive the next few hours, but he knew they were doing the right thing. Sometimes that was enough. All hands, prepare for combat, he announced over the ship's communication system. We're going to show these Vex what happens when humans hear a call for help. The battle was about to begin, and it would determine not just the fate of the survivors, but the future relationship between humanity and the galaxy. The USS Intrepid raced through space toward the 3 Vex ships. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the enemy vessels opened fire. Bright energy beams shot past them, missing by only a few hundred meters. Return fire, Jake ordered. The Intrepid's weapons lit up the darkness. Their missiles struck the lead Vex ship, causing explosions across its hull. But the enemy vessel kept coming, barely slowed by the damage. Their armor is thick, Commander Ryan Davis reported. We need to hit them harder. Take us around their right side, Jake commanded. Alina was right about their weak spots. The human ship curved around the Vex formation, moving faster than the larger alien vessels could turn. As they came alongside the nearest enemy ship, Jake ordered another attack. This time, their weapons found gaps in the armor. The Vex ship began leaking atmosphere and slowing down. First one is damaged, Ryan announced, but the other 2 are still coming. While the USS Intrepid fought the Vex ships, Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked frantically to establish better communication with the Zephyrian survivors. She had managed to rescue 5 aliens from the wreckage. They were now in the ship's medical bay, and she was trying to learn their language. The Zephyrians were unlike any species humans had encountered. They were tall and slender, with pale, blue skin and large, gentle eyes. Their movements were graceful, almost like they were dancing, even when walking. But what struck Alina most was their obvious intelligence and kindness. Can you tell me about your people? Alina asked the lead Zephyrian, a female named Callian, who seemed to be some kind of leader. Callian spoke slowly, using simple words that Alina could understand. We are peaceful people. We build. We learn. We grow food. We never fight until Vex come. How long have you been fighting them? 3 of your years, maybe 4. Vex destroy our colonies, take our people, kill our children. Callian's eyes filled with tears. We send messages to other star peoples. No one comes. We think we die alone. Alina felt her heart break for these gentle aliens. We came. We heard your message. Yes, you came. But why? Others say that too weak, too few. Not worth saving. Before Alina could answer, the ship shook violently. Another Vex energy beam had struck them. She could hear Jake's voice over the communication system, ordering evasive maneuvers. We came because it was the right thing to do, Alina told Callian. Where we come from, we don't abandon people who need help. Meanwhile, on the bridge, the battle was getting worse. The USS Intrepid had disabled 1 Vex ship, but the other 2 were closing in. Their weapons were more powerful than anything the human ship carried. Shields down to 60%, Ryan reported. We can't take much more of this. How long until our message reaches Earth? Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter checked her calculations. At least 3 weeks for the signal to arrive, then 3 more weeks for any ships to get here. If they sent ships at all. Jake knew they couldn't last that long. But he also knew they couldn't abandon the Zephyrian survivors. He was trying to think of a solution when Amy spoke up again. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet below. It's coming from the Zephyrian homeworld. Put it through." The voice that came over the speakers was different from Callian's, but equally desperate. Alina translated as best she could. "They're saying more Vex ships are coming. A whole fleet. They'll be here in 2 days." Jake felt his stomach drop. Fighting 3 Vex ships was hard enough. A whole fleet would be impossible. "Ask them how many ships are coming," he ordered. Alina spoke to the survivors, who communicated with their people on the planet below. The answer made everyone on the bridge go quiet. 50 ships, Captain. Maybe more." The bridge was silent, except for the sounds of battle. Everyone understood what this meant. The Zephyrians were about to face their final battle, and the USS Intrepid would be destroyed trying to help them. But Jake Morrison was not ready to give up. He had an idea that was crazy enough to work. "Amy, I want you to send a different kind of message to Earth, not to the government or the military. Send it to the news networks, the civilian communication systems. Everywhere people will see it." "What kind of message, sir?" "Tell them what we found here. Tell them about this and what's happening to them. Show them the recordings of the destruction, the survivors we rescued, everything." Ryan looked confused. "Captain, what will that accomplish?" "People need to know," Jake said. "The government might decide this isn't worth fighting for, but regular people will understand. When humans see innocent people being hurt, they get angry. And when humans get angry, they do something about it." Alina came back to the bridge as Jake was explaining his plan. "The Zephyrians want to know if we're leaving. They understand if we go. They say we tried to help, and that's more than anyone else did." "Tell them we're not going anywhere," Jake said firmly. "We're going to hold off these Vex ships until help arrives." "But Captain," Ryan protested, "help might never come." "It will come," Jake said with confidence. He didn't entirely feel. Humans don't like bullies. When Earth sees what the Vex are doing here, they'll send everything they have. The ship shook again as another Vex weapon hit them. The lights flickered, and warning alarms began sounding. "Shields down to 30%, Ryan reported. "How are our weapons?" "Still functional, but we're running low on missiles." Jake made another decision. "Take us down to the planet's atmosphere. We'll use the gravity in the air to help us fight." "That's risky, Captain. If our engines fail, then we'll go down fighting. But maybe we can damage enough Vex ships to give the planet more time." As the USS Intrepid dove toward the Zephyrian homeworld, Jake looked at the alien survivors on his ship. They were peaceful people who had never wanted to fight anyone. They just wanted to live their lives and raise their children. The Vex had come to their worlds like a disease, destroying everything beautiful and replacing it with death. "Amy, make sure that message gets sent on all frequencies. Use every communication method we have." "Already done, Captain. The signal is spreading through space right now." Jake hoped he was right about his people. He hoped that when humans saw what was happening here, they would demand action. He hoped they would send ships and weapons and soldiers to help people they had never met, because if they didn't, the Zephyrians would die, and maybe humanity would lose something important, to the belief that right and wrong still mattered in a vast, cold universe. The USS Intrepid entered the planet's atmosphere with 2 Vexed ships following close behind. Below them, Jake could see Zephyrian cities, beautiful, artistic places that the Vex would soon destroy. Above them, space was full of wreckage from 3 years of hopeless fighting. But Jake Morrison was not giving up. He was human, and humans had a reputation in the galaxy now. They were the species that answered calls for help. They were the ones who came when everyone else stayed home. "All hands, "Prepare for atmospheric combat," he announced. "We're going to show these Vex what human determination looks like." 6 weeks had passed since Captain Jake Morrison sent his desperate message to Earth. The USS Intrepid had managed to survive the atmospheric battle, but barely. The ship was damaged and running low on supplies. The Zephyrian homeworld below was under constant attack from the growing Vex fleet. Jake stood on the bridge, looking at the tactical display. 43 Vex ships now surrounded the planet. His single human vessel couldn't do much against so many enemies, but they had managed to rescue several hundred Zephyrian civilians and were giving the planet's defenses tactical advice. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Carter called out excitedly, "I'm detecting faster-than-light signatures approaching the system. Multiple contacts." Jake felt his heart race. "How many ships?" Amy worked frantically at her controls. "I count, 26 vessels incoming." "They're human ships, sir." The bridge erupted in cheers. Through the main screen, they watched as human warships dropped out of faster-than-light speed. Jake recognized the design's heavy cruisers, destroyers, and fighter carriers. This was a real military fleet. "Communication coming in," Amy reported. "Put it through." A familiar voice filled the bridge. "USS Intrepid. This is Admiral Lisa Hayes, aboard the USS Liberator. Sorry, we're late to the party." Jake grinned for the first time in weeks. "Admiral, you're a beautiful sight. We got your message, Captain. The whole thing. Earth has been in an uproar for the past month. Every news channel, every government meeting, every conversation has been about the Zephyrians." The people demanded action. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been working with the Zephyrian survivors, stepped forward. "Admiral, what are your orders regarding the civilians we've rescued?" "Dr. Rodriguez, isn't it? I've read your reports on Zephyrian culture. Impressive work. As for the civilians, we're here to save them all, every last one." Commander Ryan Davis studied the tactical display, showing both fleets. "Admiral, the Vex have 43 ships. We have 27 counting the Intrepid. The odds aren't great." "Mr. Davis, you're thinking like someone who hasn't seen human military doctrine in action. Watch and learn." The human fleet spread out across the system in a formation the Vex had never encountered. Instead of charging straight at the enemy like most species did, the humans used complex maneuvers to confuse and divide their opponents. Captain Susan Park, commanding the heavy cruiser USS Liberator, led the main attack. Her ship was 3 times larger than the USS Intrepid and carried weapons designed specifically for ship-to-ship combat. But she didn't attack the Vex fleet directly. Instead, the human ships used the asteroid belt near the system's edge as cover. They would appear from behind rocks, fire their weapons, then disappear again before the Vex could respond. It was a style of fighting that frustrated and confused the enemy. Lieutenant Commander Troy Adams led squadrons of human fighter craft against the Vex ships. The small, fast fighters could slip past the alien ships' heavy weapons and attack vulnerable spots. Within hours, 3 Vex ships were disabled, but the real surprise came when the humans started working with the Zephyrians' major. Beth Cooper was a human combat engineer who specialized in adapting alien technology. She worked with Zephyrian scientists to combine human weapons with Zephyrian defensive systems. The result was something neither species could have achieved alone. "The Zephyrians have amazing shield technology," Beth explained to Admiral Hayes. "Their shields can absorb energy that would destroy our ships, but they can't generate enough power for strong weapons. And our solution? We mount our weapons on their ships and power their shields with our generators. A Zephyrian ship with human weapons and human-powered shields is nearly unstoppable." The first combined human Zephyrian ship was the ZHS Harmony, commanded jointly by Captain Nicole Evans and Zephyrian Fleet Commander Velshaw. The ship had the flowing artistic lines of Zephyrian design, but it bristled with human weapons. When the ZHS Harmony entered combat, the results were amazing. The ship could absorb massive amounts of enemy fire while striking back with deadly accuracy. The Vex ships had no answer for this new type of vessel. "It's working," Ryan reported from the USS Intrepid. "The combined ships are cutting through the Vex formation." But the battle was far from over. The Vex responded by calling for reinforcements. More dark ships began arriving in the system, until the human-Zephyrian alliance faced over 60 enemy vessels. Admiral Hayes made a difficult decision. "All ships, we're going to attempt something that's never been tried before. We're going to coordinate a simultaneous attack using both human and Zephyrian tactics." Alina, who had become the main translator between the two species, helped coordinate the plan. "The Zephyrians are used to defensive fighting. They'll protect our ships while we attack, but we need to trust each other completely." The plan required human ships to deliberately put themselves in danger, trusting that their Zephyrian allies would protect them with their superior shields. At the same time, Zephyrian ships had to learn to attack aggressively, something that went against their peaceful nature. Kallian, the Zephyrian leader, who had been rescued by Jake's crew, now served as a liaison between the fleets. "My people are afraid," she told Alina. "We have never fought like this before, but we trust the humans. You came when no one else would." The combined attack began at dawn, on the planet below. Human ships charged directly at the Vex fleet, while Zephyrian vessels surrounded them with protective energy shields. The sight was beautiful and terrifying. Sleek human warships surrounded by glowing Zephyrian energy fields, all moving together like a single organism. Master Sergeant Carl Johnson led Marine boarding parties onto damaged Vex ships. What they found there shocked everyone. The Vex weren't just conquerors, they were a species that had been programmed to consume everything they encountered. They couldn't be reasoned with or negotiated with. "They're like a virus," Carl reported to Admiral Hayes. "They don't even understand what they're doing. They just destroy and move on to the next target." This discovery changed everything. The humans and Zephyrians weren't just fighting for one planet or one species. They were fighting against something that would eventually consume the entire galaxy if it wasn't stopped. The battle raged for 3 days. Human ships used their superior weapons and tactics, while Zephyrian vessels provided shields and sensor data. Slowly, the combined fleet began to win. Captain Morrison, still commanding the USS Intrepid, despite its damage, led a final assault on the Vex command ship. Working together with Zephyrian Captain Talvin, they disabled the massive enemy vessel and scattered the remaining Vex fleet. As the last Vex ships retreated from the system, the human and Zephyrian crews celebrated together. They had saved the Zephyrian homeworld and proven that different species could work together against a common threat. But Admiral Hayes knew this was just the beginning. "Captain Morrison, I'm promoting you to Admiral. You're going to help us set up a permanent base here." "What kind of base?" "A training facility. We're going to teach other species how to fight back against the Vex, and the Zephyrians are going to teach us about their technology and culture." Alina smiled as she watched human and Zephyrian crew members working together to repair damaged ships. It's amazing what can happen when people choose to help each other instead of looking away. Jake looked out at the stars, knowing that news of this victory would spread throughout the galaxy. Other species would learn that the humans had answered a call for help and won, against impossible odds. The galaxy was about to discover that when peaceful people were threatened, humans didn't just send diplomats or supplies, they sent warships and the warriors to crew them. 1 year after the Great Battle, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Defense Academy. Below him, the Zephyrian homeworld had been transformed. Where once there had been only destruction, now there were training facilities where humans and aliens learned to fight together. The academy was built in the style of both species, flowing Zephyrian architecture combined with practical human military design. It was beautiful and functional, representing the partnership that had saved this world. "Admiral," called Colonel Elena Rodriguez as she approached. Elena had been promoted after her successful work in establishing communication between humans and Zephyrians. She now ran the Academy's cultural exchange program. What's the latest report, Elena? Excellent news. The Altarian Trade Federation has agreed to send ships to help patrol the outer systems. The Centauri Republic is contributing their sensor technology. Even the Andromedans want to join our alliance. Jake smiled. When the story of the Zephyrian rescue had spread across the galaxy, other species had taken notice. They had seen what could be accomplished when civilizations worked together, instead of hiding from threats. Any word from the Vex territories? Captain Troy Adams returned from his reconnaissance mission yesterday. The Vex have retreated to their core systems. They seem confused by our tactics and are avoiding contact with Alliance ships. This was the best news Jake had heard in months. Troy had been leading long-range patrols to monitor Vex movements. For the first time since the war began, the aggressive aliens were on the defensive. Where's Admiral Hayes? She's in the command center, with the new recruits. Today's graduation day, for the first mixed species squadron. Jake made his way to the command center, where he found Admiral Lisa Hayes addressing a group of young pilots from 6 different species. They wore the new Alliance uniform, a design that incorporated symbols from all member civilizations. Today, you become more than pilots, Hayes was telling them. You become guardians of the galaxy. When peaceful people call for help, you will answer. Among the graduates, Jake recognized several faces. There was Amy Carter, now a commander, who had volunteered to stay and help train alien communications officers. Ryan Davis had become a lieutenant colonel and was teaching human combat tactics to species that had never fought aggressive wars. But the most remarkable graduate was Callian. The Zephyrian leader had insisted on learning human military methods, so she could better protect her people. Now, she wore the rank of captain and commanded a mixed crew of humans and Zephyrians. How do you feel about fighting Callian? Jake asked her after the ceremony. It goes against everything my people believed for thousands of years, she replied in much improved English. But we learned that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. You humans taught us that running away from bullies doesn't make them stop. The success of the Academy had attracted attention from across the galaxy. Species that had been neutral in the war against the Vex were now contributing ships, technology, and personnel to the Alliance. What had started as one human ship helping desperate aliens had grown into the largest military cooperation in galactic history. But Jake knew their work was far from over. The Vex were still out there, and they were learning too. Intelligence. Reports suggested they were developing new weapons and tactics to counter the Alliance strategies. Admiral Morrison called Major Beth Cooper, the combat engineer who had helped design the first human Zephyrian hybrid ships. We've got something you need to see. Beth led him to the engineering section, where teams of human and alien technicians worked together on new ship designs. The latest prototype was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. We call it the Unity class, Beth explained. It combines technology from all Alliance species, Zephyrian shields, human weapons, Altarian engines, Centauri sensors, and Andromedan armor. It's the most advanced warship ever built. Jake studied the sleek vessel. It was larger than any ship in the human fleet, but it moved with the grace of a Zephyrian craft. More importantly, it represented something new in galactic history, cooperation between different species. How many can we build? With the resources pledged by all Alliance members, we could have 50 of these ships within 2 years. But that's not the best part. What's the best part? Each ship will have a mixed crew. Humans, Zephyrians, Altarians, Centauris, everyone working together. The Vex have never faced anything like this before. That evening, Jake attended a dinner, celebrating the Academy's first anniversary. Representatives from dozens of species shared food and stories from their homeworlds. The diversity was amazing. Some aliens were tall and thin, like the Zephyrians. Others were short and stocky. Some had fur, some had scales, some breathed different atmospheres, but they all had one thing in common. They had all heard the story of how humans answered the Zephyrian call for help, and they wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. During the dinner, Jake received a message that made him stop eating. Lieutenant Commander Carl Johnson, now commanding a deep space patrol, had sent urgent news. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," Carl's message said. "We've discovered something about the Vex that changes everything." Jake excused himself and went to the communications center. Carl's face appeared on the screen, looking excited and worried at the same time. "What did you find, Carl?" "We captured a damaged Vex ship and studied its computer systems. Admiral, the Vex aren't just randomly aggressive. They're following a program, like a computer virus. Someone or something created them to spread across the galaxy and destroy other civilizations." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Who created them? We don't know yet, but we found references to something called the Architects. The Vex are just tools, Admiral. The real enemy is still out there." This news would change everything. The Alliance wasn't just fighting against one aggressive species, they were fighting against whoever had created the Vex as a weapon of galactic destruction. But as Jake looked around at the Academy, filled with species working together for the first time in galactic history, he felt confident about the future. Humans had answered one call for help and sparked something amazing. When the galaxy learned about the Architects, Jake knew the Alliance would be ready. The next morning, Jake stood again on the observation deck. Ships from a dozen different species were landing and taking off from the Academy spaceport. In the distance, he could see construction crews building new facilities to train even more Alliance personnel. Alina joined him, carrying reports from the morning briefings. "The Council of Species wants to expand the Academy. They're talking about building similar facilities in 50 star systems." "Good," Jake said. "We're going to need them." "Admiral, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had ignored that first distress signal?" Jake thought about it for a moment. If the USS Intrepid hadn't investigated the Zephyrian call for help, the peaceful aliens would probably be extinct now. The Vex would have continued spreading across the galaxy, destroying everything in their path, and no one would have known about the Architects until it was too late. "I think the galaxy would be a much darker place," he finally answered, as if to prove his point. A new ship dropped out of faster-than-light speed and approached the Academy. Jake didn't recognize the design, but Alina did. "That's a Regelian vessel," she said with excitement. "They've been isolationists for centuries. They never talk to other species." The Regelian ship requested permission to land and send representatives to the Academy. Like so many others, they had heard the story of how humans answered a call for help and wanted to join the Alliance. Jake smiled as he watched the alien ship land. 1 year ago, he had been a simple explorer, following a strange signal from deep space. Now he was helping to build the largest alliance in galactic history. The galaxy had called for aid, and humans had answered with warships. But they had brought something more important than weapons. They had brought the idea that right and wrong still mattered, that peaceful people deserved protection, and that different species could work together toward common goals. That as more ships appeared in the sky above the Academy, Jake knew that the real war was just beginning. But he also knew that the galaxy was no longer defenseless. When the Architects finally revealed themselves, they would face not just humans, but an alliance of free species working together, and that, Jake thought, would be a fight worth winning.